Hey everyone, and welcome to Dungeons & Dragons Horror Stories with D&D Doge. In today's episode, we have a tale about a player that doesn't think another player is playing their character right, a story about a player that dampers the game by general disinterest, and much more. So, without further ado, let's hop right into these stories. The Problem Player by Reddit user Throwaway, too many numbers. I'll try to keep this short, as really I'm just venting. It all started with a Pathfinder game. We were a group of friends in real life who played together online. I was running it, and at first, everything was fine. Then, our problem player suddenly started exhibiting some annoying behaviors. They'd split the party as much as possible, and just wander off and do their own thing. A bit minor, and I figured that all it would take was a one-on-one talk to fix. Well, surprise, that didn't work. Over time, they became worse as a person as well. They became disengaged from the game, would shoot everyone passive-aggressive comments, and once got into a shouting match with another player that got really heated and made everyone uncomfortable before I could calm it down. I talked to them a few times, as we as a group had agreed that we didn't want to lose them as a friend. We all knew that, in real life, they were going through a rough time, and that was likely what was leaking into the game. Either way, I got burned out and needed a break. So, the wife decided to run a Vampire the Masquerade game. Now, World of Darkness games are really not great places to bring unstable people into. We should have remembered that. It started out okay, but soon, our problem player was back to their old behaviors. This time, whenever it was their turn, they'd say that they wanted to do something, but when asked how they would do it, they'd demand to be skipped and would talk about it after the game. This got old fast. Over time, they became more sporadic. Sometimes they just no-showed. Other times they'd leave the call mid-game during their turns for unknown reasons. It just kept escalating. Eventually, my wife got burned out too, and begged me to take over as GM again. So I did, after a lengthy talk with everyone about boundaries and acceptable behavior at the gaming table. It went downhill fast. They came to one session, broke up from the party, and skipped to the end of the dungeon and tried to take on the boss themselves. I had to do some GM magic to keep them alive long enough for the party to arrive. As mad as I was, I didn't want to just murder them if I could help it. The next session, they were just gone. Left our server and everything. Never said a word. One of my players reached out and was told that they were done. So we all had a sigh of relief and continued on. We thought it was over, and I was pleased that I didn't have to kick them myself. Though it wasn't over. The next week, they messaged my wife wanting to know what we knew about them leaving. We said nothing. We didn't know a thing. They didn't like that, and my inbox was sorely abused by them over the next few days. Excuses, explanations for their behavior, begging to be let back in, and accusations of us not caring about them as we didn't come begging them to come back. In short, I had enough. As politely as I could, I let them know that while I understood their reasons, that didn't excuse their behavior. So I didn't let them back and then blocked them. I was just done. Last I heard, they were going to run a D&D game for their ex's partner, and some newbies. I wish them luck, but I don't think it'll end well. I think OP made the right call here. It sounded like that player just didn't care at all for the games that they were in, and that brought everyone else's moods down. I can understand and sympathize that they may have been going through some stuff, but to take that out on everyone at a game table that have nothing to do with it is kinda selfish. The no-shows, leaving in the middle of the game, and general disinterest is a bit of a punch in the face to the other players and the GM who is taking their time to run a game for you. So yeah, I totally agree with OP here. Let's move on. You're playing Paladin the wrong way by Reddit user ChrishielSIT. So, today I meet a guy that believes every paladin has to be this lawful good stereotype. We were starting a new campaign, and our first mission was to investigate the crime scene and find some murderers. We managed to do that pretty fast, and we found the murderers and gave chase. We finally managed to corner them in a back alley, and our DM asks us what we want to do. I played an Oath of Vengeance paladin with horror as his god, and he himself was more of a do first, ask second kind of guy, so I decided that my paladin wanted to kill them. I described how my paladin takes his greatsword and attacks them, and at this moment, I hear this guy. Let's call him Gary. Gary. What? Why would you want to do that? Me. Huh? Because those 3 guys just killed shopkeeper and his family. Gary. You are a paladin. You should do it by the law. Me. Murder is punished by death here, so... Gary. You should try to arrest them. In the end, Gary's character tells them to drop their weapons and surrender. He told them that if they drop their weapons, they will be arrested, but we will let them live. The murderers declined this offer, so I immediately announced that this time, my paladin just takes a swing for the nearest one. I had high strength and managed to kill him with 1 hit. Our DM allows us to describe exactly how we kill our enemies, so I describe how my paladin takes a heavy swing with his sword and strikes it in the murderer's shoulder, then quickly pulls him over to the ground and uses the sword's guard like a hammer to smash the man's skull. This triggered a fight, but DM stated that before we roll initiative, and thanks to my great weapon master ability, I was allowed to attack again and take out the other murderer with another powerful swing. This time, my paladin takes out his mace and starts beating the shit out of this murderer, bludgeoning him to death and breaking his hands in the process, as he was trying to use them to cover himself from incoming blows. I finish him with 1 fatal blow to the head, almost carving his face with it. The last murderer tried to run, but he had nowhere to go and got shot with an arrow and bled out to death. As soon as the fight ended, Gary jumped at me. The conversation went something like this. Gary. What the hell, man? That's not what paladins would do. Me. What? Why? Gary. Because paladins are the good guy. You should do what is right. Me. We just brought justice to 3 murderers. Wasn't that a good thing to do? Gary. But that's not how paladins would do it. Me. Maybe you're paladin, but I'm playing a paladin of vengeance that believes that you can fight violence with violence, so killing them was okay. Besides, they refused to surrender. Gary. You have high charisma. You should try to convince them. Me. But that's not how my character would do it. He's not a negotiation type of guy. So basically, we went back and forth with this. Gary was trying to explain to me that I am playing my paladin the wrong way, and my character's personality should not influence his actions that much, and that I should act more like a lawful good paladin, because this character could not become a paladin. He also tried to explain to me that brutally killing those 2 would make me an evil character. Maybe I could agree with that argument. Brutal killing was not a thing that a good alignment paladin would do. However, I was playing lawful neutral, and even our DM agreed that it still fits lawful neutral because I was doing it for a good cause. And in the eyes of my god, I did okay. We argued some more, and in the end, DM just asked Gary to leave, and we never saw him again. TLDR, player thinks that if I'm not playing a lawful good paladin, that I'm playing my class wrong. You gotta love it when someone thinks that a person's character has to be this straight on the dotted line, cookie cutter stereotype. OP was playing a Vengeance Paladin, and from what I understand, they can be a tad Old Testament. Plus, even if he was Devotion, that doesn't mean he has to play him as some sort of PG Robocop. Perhaps it could lead into some character development. But Gary just couldn't let it go. Even the DM agreed with OP, but Gary just couldn't drop the subject, thus hampering the game. And I don't blame him for kicking Gary, as that type of behavior just doesn't go away on a dime. Though, that's just my thoughts. What do you all think? let's move on. Bloodthirsty Lone Wolf draws out sessions, eventually ending the campaign. By Reddit user, alrighty then. I'm a newer DM to D&D 5th edition. I used to run in person a lot, but since COVID, it has been mostly online. I read a lot about Strixhaven and was really inspired. I spent a solid few months picking and choosing what to use and curating a whole new world and school that was to my liking. I don't like using published material because I never feel like I have enough knowledge of it. Anywho, I start my hunt for players. I, a 20-something-year-old female, was trying to get a group that wasn't mostly guys, just because it's something that I've never had before. I gather a few players, but one drops out, and it ends up being another girl and 3 guys. Whatever, fine. I want to run this, so I'm going to. I create characters with these people, and make sure to mention that this is a lighthearted campaign. Nothing's really going to be to the death. It's just going to be like going to magic school and having fun. And everyone is on board. Then there was the last guy. He wants to play a changeling rogue. Sounds cool, so I'll do it. He's adopted by a pirate goblin, and it's all fun and games with his background. We get to playing, and the first session, he wants to go find drugs to sell to the people on campus. Okay, not really the vibe, but alright. He continually would separate from the party to go off and either get drunk or smuggle. I tried to explain to him that he's a level 1 character with little to no connections, so he needs to start small if he wants to get a smuggling business going on. I was trying to deter him, but he said that a changeling feature was that he always knew someone everywhere he went. So, fine. I made up some connections and tried to keep the focus on the players that were exploring the wonders of the school that I put in front of them. Then, he tricks another player, Elf, to help him rob a tavern. He then changes his identity so that he can't be traceable, so I can't really within reason give him consequences for his actions. At this point, the player had started many arguments with the players about what they should be doing. He would also stop joining the voice calls and only roleplay by text. When confronted, we found out that he was playing while being at work. Interesting. The final straw was during a field trip. They were trekking through a forest and got ambushed by a group of goblins. The same player from before, Elf, tries to reason with them as they are screaming about how the bad people are bringing bad things. The changeling player decides to then shoot the goblin in the foot. Combat ensues, and the goblins run away, except one gets trapped. Again, Elf tries to talk to the goblin, but that guy decides to shoot the goblin point blank in the temple. The characters start to argue, then we as a group decide to just take a break from the game for a few sessions. And now, we haven't played in like 4 months. Yep, it sounds like you have a murder hobo in your hands there. If you're having a hard time with this player in your game, I would just reach out to them and let them know that you don't think that they're a good fit. Don't let that guy ruin things for everyone else, including yourself. If anything, you can just run the game with a smaller party for a while, and then look for a new player to join. Or, if you don't think you can adjust the encounters, just run a DMPC for a little while. Though, be careful not to have the DMPC be too powerful or spotlighty. At least, those are my thoughts. What do y'all think? And before we move on to the following story, here is Lucky with an important question. But I already gave you 2. How could you refuse that face? Anyway, let's move on to today's final story. My Worst D&D Experience by Reddit user D&D Throwaway Univac. Longtime reader here. Also listen to a lot of horror story readings on YouTube through Crit Crab, Critical Crunic, Den of the Drake, Crow's Perch, etc. Hi, I'm etc. I have a story for you. Though it's not near as bad as many that end up on here, I still thought it was worth telling. Some things are a little murky, but I will remember as best I can. My worst D&D experience. The people are DM, the DM, relatively inexperienced in general, and we were running what was very early 5e at the time. I think it was not properly released yet, but I could be wrong. Me, a wizard, human I think. Paladin, the problem player, lawful stupid. And another player. I don't remember anything about them, and they weren't important to the story as far as I remember. So, I was in a little social gathering thing at my university that I went to, and I met some people who were eager to play D&D. I had mostly played 3.5, but DM wanted to try early 5e, which was fine. We start our adventure, get a quest to go to a cave and clear it out, etc. The usual venturing fare. When we got into an encounter on the way, my wizard skitters up a tree to fire spells down from there, and the paladin does not like this. They start telling my character to join the fight, and threatening to murder him if he didn't help out. I complained that this went against their alignment. Yeah, I know alignment isn't set in stone, but you shouldn't be doing this when you're supposed to be a good character regardless. And the DM didn't say anything. This sort of thing kept happening, where my wizard tried to stay out of the fray and attack from a distance, and Paladin kept threatening him each time. Eventually, the last session of the semester, we all kept taking too long to make decisions and slowed the game down a lot, apparently. A fair criticism of all the players, myself included. We managed to escape the cave and are heading back to town when we are told that we find a wizard's tower nearby. The others instantly want to loot it, and I refuse and want to stay behind. Paladin continues to threaten me, but when I keep refusing, they just go without me. So, they are trying to loot the tower, and they get caught by the wizard who owns it and starts a fight. They are very clearly outmatched and quickly trying to flee, with the wizard flinging spells everywhere after them, and this is where the DM screws up. He rolls attacks, and somehow, some way, decides that one of them is targeted at me. It hits, and one-shots my character. I'm pissed at this point, complaining, and the DM shrugs it off, and the paladin is smug about my character dying. On the way back, the DM decides to retcon my death. So, I'm back. But at this point, it was already the last session before the end of the semester. We never did anything more, and I never met any of them again. I have no ill will towards any of them, but I thought it was a funny experience, as well as the worst I've had so far. I've been fairly lucky, knock on wood, with my D&D experiences so far. DM. I hope you've become a better DM and less accepting of the bad behavior of players towards each other, and not killing the player who refused to loot someone's place and didn't participate in bad deeds just because the others did and got caught. Paladin. You were kind of a bully and an asshat. I hope you've realized your mistakes and became a better person. To this day, I'm still trying to find campaigns that won't fizzle out because of scheduling issues, the true big bad of tabletop RPGs itself. Here's to hoping, right? Edit for context. It was a low-level game, and we were told that the tower was owned by a high-level wizard. I understand Paladin may not have known that spellcasters usually attack from a distance, but he could have figured it out after that first fight encounter, or OP could have just told him. But this seemed to be a campaign-long issue, so I chalk that up to Paladin just being a douche. And I can understand OP's frustration with the DM for killing his character while he hung back away from the tower. But OP did mention that DM was fairly new to the game, and mistakes are to be expected. So I think to harp on this is a bit harsh. Besides, it sounds like that DM did try to correct it. Overall, not the worst story I've read, and it sounds like OP hasn't had any bad experiences since this, so hopefully he keeps that trend going. But that will do it for today. As always, I appreciate all of you, and may all of your games remain horror story free. Until next time.